Chief, I'll introduce you to our city attorney.
Okay.
This is Micah Spruce. This is Chief Shadow from Mexico. But Micah is the former O'Brien County attorney also.
Okay, Micah?
No. Nice to meet you.
All the reviews have been really, really good. I oversold. That's what sales we do.
You gotta be able to deliver, Tom.
I know.
You want to get an agenda? There's some agendas over here.
How many jets are there? Like to renew them. Yeah, we can get it. That's till 4:30. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4:30. Welcome to our council meeting. I'd like to begin by standing for a moment of silence, and we'll follow that by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's begin with a roll call, please.
Pete Hamill.
Here.
Ken Snyder.
Here.
Brad Hint.
Here.
Wayne Barahona.
Here.
And Tom Eggers.
Here.
Okay, next item is approval of the agenda.
Move we approve the agenda. Support.
Roll call, please.
Barahona.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Very good. Item 3 is public forum for anyone wishing to address the council at this time. If there's anyone here, now would be your chance. We have no written comments that I'm aware of either. So we'll move on then to our consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hint.
I abstain. Potential conflict.
Hamill.
Aye.
Barahona.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
All right. At this point today, I want to just say thank you to Chief Denny Kruger for his 38 and a half years of service with the fire department. The last 5, Brad, how many has he served as chief? 4. The last 4 as chief. There is going to be a open house for giving the public a chance to congratulate him and thank him for his service. That will be held on December 2 from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the Community Service Center here down in the basement. Public is encouraged to attend and share their appreciation and their gratitude for his work. And refreshments will be provided, so there's an incentive. Since we will be asked about the process of filling this position, here's a brief update. The position of fire chief is appointed by the city council. There will be an agenda item on at our next meeting on the November 16 agenda to begin discussion on how the next chief will be chosen. City council is encouraged to think about this process and how it will occur. If the vacancy is not filled by November 30, it is not necessary to name an interim chief pending the appointment of the permanent chief. Provided the council is working to fill the vacancy with reasonable diligence, our Assistant Fire Chief, Brad Hint, can fulfill the chief's duties during the vacancy. Just a comment for anyone that's wondering. Then moving forward into item 6A, we have a resolution approving the ambulance affiliation agreement with Sanborn's ambulance team. Any comments that you want to make on that at this time, Sam?
Have anything? Unless you have questions.
I'll entertain a motion first so we can get on the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Support. Okay, we have a motion and support. Is there any discussion, any questions?
Does this have any limits? How far out do you think this will end up going?
For the city of Sanborn or for more affiliations?
Just in general, does the state have any limitations on how far an affiliate can be away?
I could find out for you.
Okay. I realize it doesn't apply to this, okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Kristen must be on a call, otherwise I think she'd be here.
Okay.
You're welcome to pass it, or you're welcome to continue it. There is a memo from the city of Sanborn, which I think is positive. They express their commitment to reconstitute their ambulance service. I spoke with Jim Zutenhorst, and Jim had indicated to me that the citizens of Sanborn and the city council there want and need to have a 24/7 ambulance service, and that's something that they're requesting of him. So that is their goal.
Okay.
And I see here from the attachment, the Iowa Department of Public Health in regards to service area says, each individual service shall define their response areas utilizing their local governing bodies and maintain appropriate documentation to include but not limited to transport agreements, contingency plans, 28E agreements. Services who affiliate and who wish to combine service response areas can do so pursuant to local governing requirements.
So then, how many do we have currently?
I believe we have 2.
Okay.
We have an agreement with, affiliation agreement with Boyden, and we have one pending with Osceola. Identical to this one. So an affiliation agreement is different than a mutual assist agreement. So the affiliation agreement is for training and medical director services and the like.
Okay.
And it's required for entities that take 100 calls or less annually.
Any more questions? If not, roll call, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
All right, next up is the resolution approving the police department's membership in the regional special response team. Would you like to address us at this time, Chief?
I sure can.
If you would, step to the mic and just announce your name for the record.
My name is Brent Shatto, S-H-A-T-T-O. I'm the chief of the Esterville Police Department. I've been a member of the Heat Tactical Team since its inception in 1998. A little less involved now than I used to be, but I started as a tactical operator and went to an assistant commander position. Took a break when I became the chief of police and kind of reduced my role to the crisis negotiation. I was trained as a crisis negotiator, and now I'm the team leader for the crisis negotiation team, and I assist the command staff with whatever they may need, like possibly addressing a city council somewhere. So, kind of a jack of all trades, very familiar with how the team was built, how it runs, and would be happy to answer any questions for you. As you can see, a little bit of history, I guess. In 1998, a bunch of chiefs and sheriffs got together in northwest Iowa and southwest Minnesota when they realized that they weren't able to put together a tactical team of their own. They tried. We tried in Esterville, and with a limited number of officers in each agency, it's very difficult to do that and very expensive. So the very insightful chiefs and sheriffs at that time put together this team. They went to Attorney General's offices at both Minnesota and Iowa and got their blessings to operate across state lines. Since then, I had indicated to Sam, I believe there's legislation that has passed that allows police officers and police departments to work across state lines, much like Sioux City and South Sioux City, Council Bluffs, Omaha, Fargo, Moorhead. Many agencies around all the states have changed their laws in regard to working across state lines. We have been doing that since 1998. Typically from 1998 to about 2017, we would have anywhere from 10 to 15 or more SWAT calls a year. Some of those being in Minnesota, as you can see by this little chart. 23 of those in the last few years have been in Minnesota, 20 in Iowa. So kind of split down the middle. We've had some instances where we have had some court hearings and things like that, and this has never been an issue as far as maneuvering across state lines. Yep.
Yeah, just a question on those, the call-outs by state. You have 23 and 20 listed. Is that just in the areas where the counties that are provided? It's not a statewide toll, is it?
No, it's
Just in
counties
the service
that
area.
are served.
Yeah.
We are available to other agencies and other teams that may need our assistance. In the 24 years that I've been involved with the team, we've only gone outside of our area one time. A team in southwest Minnesota, south central Minnesota, was involved in a shooting, and their team had to be pulled off scene, and so they needed another team there to help contain that area, and so we were called to assist with that. We were called upon, and we have been called upon to go to Minneapolis area to assist. We have not responded to any of those because we don't want to leave coverage area here. When they were having civil disobedience in the Minneapolis area, we were invited as one of the many teams in the area were to come and assist, but we haven't done that yet. And don't anticipate to because of those reasons. Any other questions about that? We cover 8 counties in southwest Minnesota, all the way from the South Dakota border over to Fairmont, and that county is Martin County, and then one county north into Minnesota. We cover pretty much all of Dickinson, all of Clay, and all of O'Brien County, and most of the police departments within those counties. Esterville PD is where I'm at, and the county's not a member, but the city of Esterville is, and the city of Armstrong is temporarily on leave, but they are also have historically been a member. That's kind of how that lays out. Our team is made up of 33-ish operators. It kind of flexes. People come and go as it goes, but agencies can be a member without putting an operator on the team, or they can have tactical operators assigned to the team if we have openings. We don't want to, the team command staff doesn't want to increase the number necessarily to keep adding more. It's just harder to manage. So we're trying to keep around that 25 to 30 range. And the 33 includes folks like me who are kind of part-time crisis negotiators. We're not an actual operator anymore. We have some of those people on the team. The team is overseen by an executive board of the chiefs and sheriffs, so they're the ultimate the say. The membership, each member agency pays a fee, each annual fee, and all of those fees are combined, and then the team functions off of that. The training and equipment that the team has is purchased through those funds. The only other funds that are required, of course, is your payroll and some basic uniform equipment for the officer. Other than that, your annual dues and your uniform, and of course your training time and call-out time is on each agency. That money is the fiscal agent for the money for the heat team is the city of Fairmont. All the income comes to me. I process it in a Quicken program just so we can keep track of it, but then it's all forwarded to the city of Fairmont, and then they pay all the bills. And so it's audited and taken care of all through their city. So there's a lot more I can tell you. I don't know how long you want to be here. The team has a structure. It has a commander, has 3 team leaders. We have about 22 tactical operators, 4 trained, and all of our officers go to basic SWAT school at a minimum within the first year of their being placed on the team, or around a year. We have 4 trained long-range rifle snipers. We have 5 crisis negotiators. We have 5 drone pilots, 3 tactical dispatchers, 2 tactical medics, and 1 logistics coordinator. Some of those folks are trained in different things, so they're cross-trained. So if the numbers don't add up, that's why. The primary uses of the team are high risk, as you can see by this pie chart over here. Most of our stuff are high-risk warrant service. So if a police department or sheriff's department has an arrest warrant or a search warrant to execute, and there's concern about weapons being involved and things like that, they would utilize us for those. Not just your everyday warrants necessarily. We do a threat assessment before. If your chief would call us and say we have a warrant to execute, we would run through a threat assessment with him, and if it met the qualifications for a heat call out, then we would come. So there are some parameters that are set. Barricaded suspects, hostage rescue, search and rescue. Almost any situation that your city would be in where you needed extra police officers, you would have access to 25 to 30 people coming to your town. And initially, we often talked about if a natural disaster came and you needed extra force, we could come and help you with that, at least initially, and maybe even longer. The equipment that we have a bus that we call a troop transport. We're in the process of purchasing a new one, but it has a lot of our equipment in it. Some of the equipment that's in there we have a drone. Negotiation team deploys out of there, so we have all of our equipment in there. Robots, cameras, less lethal munitions, chemical munitions and launchers, ballistic shields, everything you could ever imagine. And then we have 2 armored MRAPs, they're called, military terms. I don't know what that means. I can't ever remember all the acronyms for it, but it's an armored vehicle, and that usually responds with us. At least one of them do. We have one stationed and parked in Jackson, Minnesota, and so it's kind of centrally located. And then we have another one that actually belongs to the Pipestone County Sheriff's Office, so they keep it up there, but we utilize it for the team. So that's kind of a quick rundown on some of the equipment and staff that we have available.
Chief, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
How many officers do most departments send? Some that have 2 or 3, or?
We do. The city of Esterville, in fact, originally had, well, not originally, but during my time, have had up to 4 on the team. At those times, we were a little shorter with, we didn't have as many member agencies, so, and we had some ability to do that at that time. The city of Fairmont has had up to 3, and so it's flexible. You can have anywhere from 0 to 3 or 4 or whatever you're able to do. But yes, there's been several agencies that have had more than one. The Nobles County Sheriff's Department currently has 2. In Esterville, we have 2. Spirit Lake has 2. There's probably more.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And then, I'm sorry, did I interrupt? Okay. What I have here for the cost for fiscal year 23-24 are estimated to be about $12,500, which would be $5,000 for personnel and equipment costs for overtime, and then there's roughly $7,500 for the bus. How does your annual budget work? Because you're about our size.
For budgeting for this,
Uh-huh.
yeah, we budget for the annual dues. Our $7,500 payment for the bus came from one of the American Rescue Plan money funding. I don't remember exactly which one it was, I'm sorry, but our city administrator worked through the problem on one of those places where we received some federal funding, and we were able to utilize that for, and I don't remember which one it was, but one of those federal funding projects was how we funded our bus money. Our overtime and officer equipment, I usually pay for our officers' personal gear, uniforms, out of our miscellaneous fund, so he doesn't have to use his clothing allowance to do that because police uniforms cost a lot and we don't have a lot of clothing allowance issued to us. So the overtime is managed through just our regular overtime budget. We haven't added anything to that in our department specifically. I don't know what it costs us annually for just that member. I couldn't answer that. I don't keep track of it separately, I guess. It just comes out of our overtime budget.
Anybody else? Questions?
Yeah.
I guess if I could, one more thing. We train once a month for 8 hours a month. We typically will take one trip a year for a few days and go to either Camp Dodge or Camp Ripley and do 2 or 3 day training there using their facilities. It's a great opportunity for us to use some of their sites and ranges and things like that. So that would be the other cost, of course, involved is having an officer at training every month. We try to keep it the same day. It's the third Wednesday of every month, and so that administrators can work around and plan for those guys being gone for those training days.
So in terms of we join now, I mean, is it just 1 or 2 officers that become a part of this team, or everyone's eligible, or how does that work?
That's up to you. That's up to the chief, typically however many he chooses to put on or is able to put on. It also is up to the team commander. Do we have room for 1 or 2 officers at this point? And I can't answer that right now because I'm not sure where we are. But then if the officer is selected by the chief sends him to training, then that officer is evaluated for the first year that he's there, and by the team and the command staff and the team leaders, and then they make a decision on whether that person is going to fit in and be a good operator for our team or not. Most everybody fits in very well, but there's a process to that, and everyone needs to know that, because we have had, over the years, we have had a couple people that didn't make it. They just weren't performing up to the standards that the rest of the team thought they should, and so they asked them to be replaced with someone else or remove them from the team. But it doesn't happen very often. It's only happened a couple times that I'm aware of or that I can recall.
Chief Birch, is there interest on the force for somebody to step into this role?
Yeah, we have one that's going to step in probably as soon as we can, right?
Yeah.
So, and then another one potentially in the future, if they have openings, we have another officer that's interested too.
Okay.
So potentially 2.
So is it the plan right now that when and if this approval is given that there is space for one?
Yeah, there is space now, if I remember right.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to have one just to go to kind of check it out and see. And then if space allows later, we'll try to add another.
I do have a question on response time, because it's quite a large area. You got a lot of officers spread out through that area. What would you suggest would be a representative response time with an adequate crew to an event, let's say in Sheldon? How many would show up in what period of time?
Typically within a half an hour, we would have at least a small faction here, I would guess, especially in an emergency. Most of our operations we can plan ahead of time. If you're requesting us for a warrant service, those are typically not emergencies. But if there was an emergency situation, we're going to be able to have, I would guess, at least 6 people ready to go within a half an hour here. We go clear to Pipestone, Minnesota, and from Esterville, that's a long way. And our officers, our tactical officers will respond. They'll be told how to respond, if it's an emergency or not. If it's an emergency, they'll be told to get there as quickly as they can.
Sure.
And then once, the whole team doesn't have to be put together necessarily or present before we can start, if that's...
No, I appreciate the input, because I'm trying to visualize this myself, and I'm sure the chief's sitting there wondering what he could expect if he was to call upon this resource as well. And And there is variances between need, I mean, if you've got something very critical going on. So I'm assuming that at least between the Iowa counties, we'd get a fairly good response to something on our side of the county then, so, okay. So thank you for that. I've got a question regarding budgets. I'm going to direct this to Sam. What is the budget source for the proposed $12,500 this year, and how would we budget this for the next fiscal year?
Just a moment. So Chief Birch and I discussed that I understand the annual dues they're being prorated in this case, right?
I believe so, yes.
And the annual dues for Sheldon would be?
Around $2,650. The dues are based upon population, so every city over 1,500 pays the same. Smaller cities, we reduce the cost so that they could be members. It's 2,600 and some change. I can't remember exactly what the amount is.
So what we discussed, Chief and I discussed, is that the roughly 2,300, maybe a little bit less now, but that could be absorbed in the current budget. As far as overtime, he's just going to have to watch his overtime to make sure he tries to stay within the current budget. You would be asked in the January budget workshops to budget $7,500 for the bus, and that's a one-time thing.
That is, we currently have a bus, but it's getting tired, and we found the need to replace it, and the executive board decided to replace it, and so every agency is putting in at least that amount and some more to help make that purchase. Should last us 30 years or more.
So if I'm reading this right, the budget for 23-24 would be roughly $12,500 to maybe $15,000 if we have to include the $2,600 in dues, which I didn't include in my math here. And then after that, the $7,500 falls off because that's a one-time contribution for the bus. So then it'd be about maybe $8,000 for the dues and overtime.
It really shouldn't be that much. I don't know how, like, again, I figure mine different because I just use the overtime out of my overtime budget. So I never actually,
Which is what I would probably do too, just to potentially want to look at it and see, with the 8 hours a month, 3 days of the year. I'll look and see, but we should have enough overtime now.
So you're comfortable with the budget on this, Chief? Okay.
Would that change the number of people if we had 2 officers, does that increase what we need to pay, or is that a set fee?
that's a set fee. They have increased it, the executive board has increased it a couple of times over the years because of inflation and because we need more equipment. But all that money goes back to the officers and the agencies. That's what we buy our fuel with, that's what we buy our training ammunition with, that's what we buy, all the things that we need. All that equipment that I listed and more, that's what we use to purchase those dues.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you for your explanation. Thank you for being here today, taking the drive down from Esterville. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, then we have the right spot here. We have the explanation, and then we have the agreement and the resolution.
I
Make a
move
motion
that
to
we
approve.
accept the resolution as presented.
Okay, I'll take one of those in a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hen.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye?
Snyder.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye. Okay. And we move on to the report section of our meeting. Sam, we'll start with you. Anything?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have regarding the report before we get into the ordinance review is today we issued a moving permit for the Bethel Youth House. I understand the garage will be moved as soon as Friday, and the house will be moved probably sometime next week, weather permitting. Have anything to add to that? No? Okay.
Are they moving it across the street?
No, it's being moved north of Hall.
Oh. So they're just getting rid of it altogether.
So it'll go down 6th Avenue to 8, it'll go down 6th Avenue to 18, and then 18 to Old 60, and then north, and then west, somewhere. Yep, that's not our problem.
Should be fewer combines out there right now, too.
All right, and if I can, we'll talk about the ordinance review.
Right with that, you got it.
All right, so you'll see the Dropbox link right underneath the A in City Manager Report. We've got the personnel manual out there too. And that should be ready soon, by the way. Hope to bring that, Mike and I met on that today, so hope to bring that forward soon. I need to get him some information on that, but that is almost done. And for the ordinance revision, so the sheet that is linked is the highlights, and I'm just going to hit a few highlights of the highlights, and I'm not going to hit all of these bullet points. So if you have any, there are a number of changes that I did not include in this sheet, so if you have any questions you'll want to ask. I guess one of the ones that Mike and I talked about today was in the indemnity section in 1.14. Rarely does a city need to have a jail penalty. We've removed that from our code, and Micah mentioned today that one of the other reasons for removing it is if you have jail time in your code, then there's public defender obligations, which are an expense for the taxpayer. So, any questions on that? Okay. Annexation, that's fairly straightforward. Fiscal management, we have a question into Mallory at Williams and Company to assist with review of this chapter. And I've got information there on wages for mayor and council. Any questions on that? Okay. Council appointments. We should probably talk about this. Todd, I'm springing this on you, and I'm sorry we haven't talked about this, but deputy clerk, water and wastewater superintendents need, in the code, need to be formally appointed by the council. Their offer letters would be on agendas anyway, but that's, for most employees, is typically just placement on the wage scale. So I didn't know if those three positions need to be formally appointed or not. Maybe that's something you and I can talk about. I don't think it really matters. Okay. Cable Commission, we haven't had one for forever, and these duties are being moved to the City Council. So 30.05 is kind of important. It's a clause that was added to the Pavilion Board ordinance to help set policy for Crossroads Park. So I put that in there. 36.06 adds fire chief, EMA director, or command officer on duty as an authorized representative at hazardous substance scenes. 37.05 is ambulance bylaw changes would need to be approved by the council, same as fire. Brad, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about 38. This is an Oxbox section, but it's more than that. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I don't,
Okay.
other than I'd like to see it.
Okay. It's
I
in-
think Birch would probably like to see it because they have access to them also.
Yeah, it's in there.
So,
Yep, it's in the link.
so yeah, I haven't
Okay.
had time to read it.
Yep, and there's plenty of time, because after this review, then we have, ultimately, once we get through all the chapters, we'll have up to 3 readings. So, that's all I have.
Just a question. How are we going to maintain this moving forward? Since we're making up 25 years of ground with this one, how do we maintain the legislative changes from year to year?
Well, we need to do it annually, and you don't have to publish the whole code annually. You just have to publish, you know, a notice. Yeah, this is a big process, and it doesn't have to be perfect I think our focus just needs to be getting the legislative updates in and addressing a few other things.
It just seems wise that we learn from this and adapt our processes to maintain it as we move along.
It's kind of like updating urban renewal, right? You know, if we get rusty on releasing TIF, for example, it's difficult to get that done.
And
so-
we've been through that too, so.
You have any suggestions, Tom, of how that would best be done, how you'd like to see it done?
Nothing other than having a dedicated, requirement that it does happen and someone associated to making sure that it happens, so.
You want to do that at a council, I guess, I've wondered about it at different times, about doing a section of the code at every meeting, it'd be just having it part, whether it's consent agenda or where it would fit into the agenda, but that we just take a little bite.
Yeah, I've just been through so many of these and other committees and bylaws, updates and stuff like that, and they're always painful. And it's almost impossible to really comprehend all of the changes from what it was to what it needs to be. And it's a daunting task. So I would rather be wrestling with how we're going to do this on an annual basis than going through this process, again, if we can help it. So I'm happy to help with the process of deciding what, or help determine what needs to be. But I think it's just good management to do that. So.
Okay, any other questions?
So I will go ahead and put together a memo then for the next section. Not sure how many chapters that will be, but get to work on that, and that will come forward in the next meeting or two.
I don't know about anybody else, this was a big enough chunk for me to chew off in preparation for one meeting, so a smaller bite maybe next time, I don't know. What are your thoughts, gentlemen? There's a lot of information to go through.
Well, is there a specific time frame in which you would like to get this voted on and approved?
It would be nice to have it wrapped up by the time, or well before the legislature is finished, because then I have to turn around next summer and do legislative updates. And I want to keep up on that every year.
And that's when?
Well, legislative session usually ends in May, and it's typically July or August, and we have the updates from Simmering and Corey.
How many total chapters are there? We did 47, 1 through 47 now, is that? So we got about, not quite a third, more than a third.
Floodplain is 160.
160?
I don't know if we have every chapter, but the last one in this book is 160.
Okay.
And we won't be reviewing the zoning code or the subdivision code, because those are a lot newer. So really and those are subsets of the code.
Okay.
But we don't need to get into those.
But I mean, we've got and some ordinances are longer than others. I don't know where the meat and potatoes is in some of these, but we've just knocked off about a fourth of them in this meeting, so.
Well, and you'll have plenty of opportunity too to speak again. So if you feel like something was missed today, that isn't a problem.
All right. Any other comments or questions about that? All right, then we move into mayor and council comments. Oh, no, wait, we gotta go through, we've got the rest of the staff. Todd, anything else from you?
No, thank you.
Kurt?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Chief Birch, anything else?
I just want to thank Chief for coming, and thanks to the council for your support on this. I think you'll find it's going to be a good resource for us, and also it's going to be a good retention tool. Not a lot of officers get a chance to do that, so I think it's going to be good for our department that way too.
Okay. Thank you. Ange, anything from you?
No, thank you.
Micah?
No, thank you.
All right, counsel to my left.
I just want to personally thank Denny Kruger, Chief Kruger, for his 38 and a half years, and the last 4 years working under him as his assistant. He's been a dedicated volunteer to the city of Sheldon, so I thank him for that.
And counsel to my right.
Ditto.
Yeah, it just amazes me that we have people who serve their community for that long. And that isn't just in volunteer positions, it's also in staff and stuff like that. So very proud of that.
All right, very good. And I have nothing, so then I would entertain a motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Hamel,
Aye.
Farahona,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
We are adjourned.